Front engine, rear-wheel drive. An old idea, but for one car company it could spell future success. That's this week on Motoring 2003.
TSN's Motoring 2003 is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. Oils fine-tuned for different engines. And Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.
Earlier this year, we talked about the resurgence of Nissan. And you know, since its alliance with Renault, Nissan has eliminated $4.2 billion of debt. And we're talking US dollars, which goes to show you just how bad things really were. And the company hopes to eliminate all its automotive debt by the year 2005. Now, cutting costs, like people's jobs, obviously has an effect, but also Nissan is now designing cars that people actually want to buy. I mean, look at all the excitement over the Altima, and the company is going back to its roots by bringing back the Z car. But Nissan's luxury division, Infiniti, that's another story. This is a division that's really always lacked any kind of identity. Then along came the G35 sedan, and the company can't keep them on the lot. Well, this week we are in beautiful San Francisco as Nissan is about to introduce two more brand new vehicles. One they're describing as a premium sedan with brains. The other one is simply pure sports car.
The new coupe is a derivative vehicle from the FM platform that we use in the G35 sedan. I used to go to Japan a couple years ago, and people would whisper to me in the halls that, "Have you seen the coupe?" And you kind of knew that there was something special that was going to be on the horizon. Definitely when you see this vehicle, it communicates instantly all those elements of great style, great technology, and the performance, of course, that comes along with it is going to make it a real success. The engine, of course, is a tuned version of the 3.5-liter engine that's been so successful in the sedan. It develops 280 horsepower, which is 20 more than is in the sedan, which is really awesome as it is. So you put that into a vehicle that's 4 inches shorter, actually, than the sedan, a little lower, and got the wheels pushed out to the side about another 3 inches. It's more sports car, actually, than it is actually sport coupe. It comes across as you know, a very exciting silhouette and a huge performance advantage through the multi-link suspension system that is inherent in the G35 sedan.
With Infiniti, there's a solid product plan in place, front engine, rear-wheel drive cars, and we're seeing that rolled out now. And before, there wasn't so much of a product plan in place, and the cars were a little hodgepodge as far as, you know, the direction of the vehicles, and now we have a solid plan.
It's basically, I would say, a stretch 350Z. It's a 2+2. The Z is a two-seater only, and I think that money for money, I would go for the J35 Coupe because a bit more space, a little bit quieter. The gruntle of the engine that even stays at cruising speed with the Z disappears with the J35. A little quieter to drive, same Brembo brakes, same 6-speed transmission for the manual. So all in all, I think it's a bit more practical car, and it looks great.
Do you think it'll take away from the Z car?
No, in fact, I think it'll complement it, because a lot of people who will be attracted to the Z and simply can't justify one based on it being a two-seater with pretty limited cargo space may well make the walk across the showroom to the Infiniti side and drive out in G35 Coupe.
We saw the clay version in Japan a year or so ago, and our jaws just dropped to the floor. I mean, I couldn't believe how pretty this car is. And now seeing it in the flesh and driving it, it's you know, it's really fulfills all our expectations.
Now they have more money to play with, and basically they want to take back the market they had before they went in the slump. And that's why we see many products, both at Infiniti and Nissan, coming back strong on the market. And the idea is simple: get the best in everything for every market they're in. More horsepower, more space, different design. So they want to stand out with many products they have.
It's never dull, and we're looking forward to all the rest of the product that's coming off this platform and the other ones that are going to be coming out of the U.S.
Couple of pretty nice cars I'm standing beside here, but I can tell just by looking at them which of the drivers is the smart one. That's coming up later on Kenzie's Corner.
With Honda, Nissan and Toyota all having redesigned their mid-size cars, it was time for Mazda to step up to the plate. On this edition of Test Drive, we take a look at the all-new Mazda 6. The question is, will this car remain the poor relation the 626 was, or do Mazda have a home run on their hands? For better or worse, the Mazda 626 lived in the shadows cast by the Toyota Camry and Honda Accord, which is why the new 6 is of such vital importance to Mazda. The look is certainly right, with its bold exterior speaking to its sporty pretensions. Powering Mazda's hopes for the future are a pair of engines, a 2.3-litre 4 and a 3-litre V6 featured in the test car. Both benefit from sequential variable valve timing. In the case of the 4, the design yields 160 horsepower and 152 pounds-feet of torque, which is up to snuff. However, the 6 bumps production to 220 ponies and a much more worthwhile 192 pounds-feet of torque at 5,000 RPM. The engine is smooth, remarkably quiet, and the power strong, especially when matched with a 5-speed manual gearbox. Now that, however, is not to say the automatic disappoints. Not only does the automatic transmission feature 5 forward speeds, it also gets a good manumatic mode. You can downshift or upshift as the mood takes you. While not the most powerful player in the segment, the 6 has enough to satisfy the frugal at heart as well as the family-oriented adrenaline junkie. The interior execution of the Mazda 6 is as good as the rest of the car. First of all, when I find it, you get tilt and telescopic steering. Add that to the power seat and finding the right driving position is a piece of cake. You also get a very attractive center stack that features buttons that are large enough to operate with a gloved hand, which is a refreshing departure from the norm. The one part I'm not overly sure about is the fabric on the seats. It has the consistency of a lint brush. Now on the one hand, it keeps you glued during the enthusiastic moments. On the other, well, it collects all the lint the car can find. The new platform is considerably stiffer than the previous 626, which gives the totally revised suspension a solid base of operations. Up front, the 6 uses a double wishbone design, while a modified version of the old 929's E-Link suspension supports the rear. Why use a former rear-drive suspension in a front-wheel drive car? Simple. When the wagon arrives, it will be offered with an all-wheel drive option. You know, considering the front-wheel drive platform, this new Mazda 6 is remarkably neutral and nothing short of superb. Part of the reason boils down to the rear suspension design. As it has a degree of compliance built in, it takes away a lot of the understeer from the Mazda 6's personality. In short, well, this thing is right up there with the BMW Mini, the best front driver I've ever driven. In a nutshell, it's the equivalent of putting a $50,000 suspension under a $25,000 car, and this happened because the platform and suspension will be used in other vehicles. The rumour mill says the next Volvo S60 and perhaps Jaguar X-Type. As Jackie Gleason is apt to say, how sweet it is. Stopping power comes from a 4-wheel disc brake design that is equipped with an anti-lock system that includes electronic brake force distribution. Throwing the anchor out yields a stopping distance of just 102 feet from 80k. The nice part is that the pedal is progressive and therefore easy to modulate. The system also sees double duty, forming part of the traction control system and optional dynamic stability control system. As for the rear environment, well, there's enough space under the front seat for your toes, plenty of knee room, a ton of headroom. The only thing you've got to watch, there's very fast roof line here. You've got to duck when you get out. Now around at the back, you get a nice trunk design. First of all, a low lift over, 430 litres of space for your junk, as well as 70-30 split folding rear seats, and these cantilever hinges. Now they make a difference because unlike the hockey stick style hinges, they don't crush anything that's placed in the corner. It's been executed very well. On the safety front, the Mazda 6 takes several key steps forward. New dual-stage front airbags have the ability to customize their deployment by using a crash zone sensor at the front of the vehicle to determine the type and severity of the impact. It then signals the control module, which then deploys the bags in the most prudent manner. There are also a pair of standard side seat-mounted airbags, as well as optional drop-down side curtain airbags. This new 6 really is the home run Mazda so desperately needed, and whilst it's not the most powerful in class, you're never left wanting. It also runs rings around the competition when it comes to handling. As for the rest of the car, I'm just going to say it is the new class of the category.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns warming up your vehicle on a cold morning. Thanks to fuel injection, modern vehicles will start up and drive away almost instantly without any stumble, stall, or hesitation thanks to that fuel injection. Not like the old days with a carburetor. However, there's still a few reasons why you may want to warm that vehicle up for a couple of minutes before you proceed. The main thing being safety. First of all, it's a good idea to let lubricants fully circulate, so a minute or two is advisable all the time. However, there may be other reasons why you have to go past that in terms of safety. You've got to make sure that you've got a little bit of heat coming out that defrost if your windows are apt to fog or frost up. Use that time productively. By all means, start the car and defrost the windows. Make sure that you've got the transmission solidly in park and fully apply the emergency brake before you get out of the vehicle to clear those windows. Scrape off the windows, dust off the snow, clear the taillights, and get back in the vehicle. By the time you've adjusted your seat belts and mirrors, you're likely ready to go. There may be the odd time when you get really rough weather when you've got to wait until there's just a little trace of heat coming out that defroster before you're safe to proceed. The absolute best way to warm a car up if it's parked outside is to use a block heater. It'll save you money, reduce emissions, and add years of life to your engine too. That's your Midas tip of the week.
The new M45 sedan really is it's in the lineup to connect the G35 front engine rear drive sedan to the flagship vehicle in the line, which of course is the Q45. There's an opportunity there to add another sedan that has some of the elements of great style and performance to the lineup that will allow us to maneuver a buyer from $40,000 G35 to the flagship vehicle at $75,000 and $80,000. We really want to make that people aware that they could have had a V8 for the price range that they're normally looking at as European rear drive 6s. So it's really designed with that in mind. The power plant, of course, is the 4.5 liter DOHC engine that is also found in the Q45 flagship. It develops 340 horsepower, 333 pound-feet of torque. It really is, several tens of horsepower greater than anything else that's in the marketplace at that price point that you can find right now.
It doesn't stand out. It has everything, same engine as the Q, good stance, good drivability, but it's a bit anonymous. And for somebody who wants to pay 60 grand plus for a car, you want yourself to stand out a bit. You don't pay that much money for a car that looks like anything. The M45 is obviously temporary. Even from the people at Nissan, they told us that this model is there for a short period before they really make something outstanding for that market specifically. But out of the product they got out yet, I think they're on track to do something very nice.
The new G35 Coupe has a feature that really makes living with a 2.2 configuration that much easier. You flip the passenger seat down and the seat will automatically move forward, allowing access to the back seat. Flip it back up and it goes back into place. Well, my cameraman Pete McCallum has a beef about this feature. You see, he has to get in and out of the car all day when we're shooting, and since the car doesn't have seat memory, the seat does not go back to his first position, so every time Pete gets in the car, he has to readjust the seat. And he thought I should pass this news on to you. Well, my response to Pete is, Pete, how do you get through a day facing so many problems? And you know, I don't think Pete's going to get any sympathy from our man in the Quaker State garage, Bill Gardner. How about it, Bill?
Well, you know, Brad, Pete had a complaint for me as well, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I'll tell you one way that he gets through a Canadian winter, and that's with Rain-X de-icer washer fluid. Now, just prior to a shoot last winter, I told Pete about this product. He saw me using it on a shoot, and he picked up some, tried it in his own car, and like everybody else I've told about this product, he was raving about it the next time I saw him. Now, the neat thing about Rain-X de-icer washer fluid, there's a number of neat things. First and foremost, when you come out in the morning and before you've got any heat coming out of that defroster, if you've got a little bit of frost on the windshield, this washer fluid will dissolve it without adding to the problem of icing up the windshield. This will actually dissolve a light film of ice or frost on the windshield. A couple of other key features to this product: it dries completely streak-free, and it also slowly treats the glass on your car with the Rain-X polymer technology that seals the micropores in the windshield. And what that does for you, if you use it on a continuous basis, is allow slush and snow that accumulates on the windshield to release quickly. Releases quickly from the wiper blades, and the wind pressure on the windshield slides it right up and off the windshield. I've tried it for a number of winters and I know it works. This is my own vehicle, and I just realized that I've still got summer washer fluid in there with no freeze protection. And if you've got pink colored washer fluid in your vehicle, that denotes the fact that it's summer washer fluid. You've got to get it out of there in the fall. We're only days away from sub-zero temperatures, so I've got to get this bottle out, siphon out that summer fluid, and put in the Rain-X winter de-icer fluid. Now, the complaint Pete had was that he took his car into the dealership. He had the washer fluid bottle about half full of the de-icer winter fluid, and the guys at the dealership, with their heart in the right place, topped it up for him, but with regular fluid, thereby negating the features that he had with the Rain-X fluid. So he's got to get the bottle out of there, drain it as well, and put back an undiluted solution of Rain-X de-icer washer fluid. Now, one thing that I would advise someone like Pete and anybody else that uses a premium washer fluid, so you don't run into a situation like that, take a magic marker and write right on the washer fluid bottle, Rain-X only, please. That's what I did with my vehicle, and that will tell others that you want the premium washer fluid. It's about $1 a bottle extra, but once you've used it, you won't want to go back to regular washer fluid. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2003.
That's a pretty good neighborhood, eh? A BMW M5, and I got an M3 Cabriolet over here. It's too bad there's no car washes in this neighborhood, but I wanted to show you this car, this M5. This is your host, Brad Diamond's hot rod du jour, and for the first time in his life, he's backed into his parking spot. I'm always whining at him about this. Now, why is this important? Pretty simple. As you drive along, you see a parking spot. You can see by looking into it, there's nothing there. There's no kids' tricycles lying around. You back into your spot nice and safe, and then when you come back to your car, you're already facing the flow of traffic. You don't want to be backing into traffic because, well, you can't see very well, right? Particularly with modern cars with their high back ends and the forested headrests we have to have there. So if you're facing traffic, you can pull out safely. Now, if you go to any General Motors facility anywhere in Canada, you'll see most of the cars are backed into their spots. Why? Because a good old friend of mine named John Powell has trained them all to do that. In fact, most advanced driver training programs will teach you back into your spot. It's the safest way to do it. Now, I have heard that in Quebec, it's illegal to back into a spot, and that's because they don't have front license plates, and it makes it more difficult for the police to identify your car should they have to arrest you for something. Well, I've never got confirmation that that's true, and I hope it isn't, because since when would the administrative convenience of a police officer take precedence over traffic safety? Actually, the safest way to park, if you can get away with it, in a big parking lot where there's rows and rows of spots, if you can pull in frontwards, pull right through 2 spots and park on the other side, that's the best way to do it. But if you got a curb like this, you have no choice. Back into your spot. Now, I have to admit, there's one slight drawback to this approach. You pull forward, you're getting ready to back up, take your spot, and then some big hairy guy in an SUV jumps in there and steals your spot. Well, of course, you got to get out of your car, and you got to start arguing with the guy. Next thing you know, you're fighting with the guy. Next thing you know, he's punching your lights out. Geez, you know, maybe backing into your spot isn't such a good idea. No, I'm kidding. Back into your spot, it's the safest way to do it. Now, it's not a cure for the common cold. It's not the biggest traffic safety problem we face, but it is one of those little details that separates you, the good driver, from those ugly masses out there. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Now, of course, Graham will take a closer look at both the G35 Coupe and the M45 sedan on a future program, but some first impressions. First, the sedan. Well, it's a sedan. It's a good car. And I guess if you can't afford the Q45, you go with this one. But believe me, with a V8 packing 340 horsepower under the hood, you don't have to make any excuses. But let's be honest, the real star is the Coupe. Not only does it look hot, it drives that way too, and the V6 has that same growl that you hear in the Z car. And like its sedan sibling, Nissan will probably sell every one it can make. But you may have noticed I have not mentioned that word sport utility on the program until now. Well, you know, Nissan is hoping to sell an extra 1 million vehicles over the next few years. And with that in mind, on the drafting board, they've got an Infiniti full-size sport utility coming your way, as well as the FX45, a sort of crossover sport ute that they're dubbing the Bionic Cheetah. So I guess Nissan, like other car companies, realize that the sports cars do turn heads, but it's those sport utes that still can butter a lot of bread. Well, that's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
The most impressive part is that in spite of its almost 6,000 pounds when you throw the driver in, it'll still hustle to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.5 seconds thanks to a 550 horsepower V12 engine.
TSN's Motoring 2003 has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. Oils fine-tuned for different engines. And Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.